Hey there, my friends. This is Bill McDonald, the writing doctor. Many of you have asked me what a 3-4 paper looks like using the plan that I teach, keeping the student rubric and the adult expository scoring guide as my focus, as the center of attention. I built an entire writing folder and a graphic organizer to kind of go hand in hand and complement each other to help your students remember the steps that the scoring guide teaches and even the students quick check rubric teaches, so that they can remember what to do as they're doing an expository essay. So this is going to go along with that video that many of you purchased, how to get 3s and 4s when everyone else is getting 0s, 1s, and 2s. So let's get started by sharing my screen with you. That's the advanced folder. And we're only going to focus on one little portion today, the expository section, which is going to be on the upper left-hand side. The title says WWEEE, or expository. Now, real quick, that means that this little man here, my WWE wrestler, if your kids will keep him in mind, everything you need to do in expository kind of follows the pattern of WWE. What's my idea? Why did I choose it? And then a bunch of E's. Give me an example, and I'm pointing up on the top because if you're going to give a reason, then sometimes you want to give an example that goes with it. And then that example is what you're going to explain. And I have myself pretending like I'm the wings of a plane now. And then to get that 4, it said, choose your words carefully, because the third bullet said, develop your ideas in detail. That's why you explain. So explode means use higher vocabulary and voice when you write. And then that last bullet is going to be the ending and the editing, taking the paper to the ER, the emergency room. So let's kind of run through the folder so you can kind of see how it follows the guidelines from TEA. We had said that the first bullet was very clear. It said to clearly state your central idea, right here for fourth grade, your controlling idea for 7th grade, and your thesis for 9th grade. That's how to get a 1. May the 1s be with you. And it's really hard to get 3s and 4s in April, as we had mentioned, even more in December, like some of you English 1, English 2 teachers are having to do. So you're going to have to remember that writing is a purpose, but it's more of a process, something that takes some time. And so you might have to teach them how to respond to the prompt. The second bullet we had said on the student rubric said, organize your writing. So right there, we have in the body, what they're going to look for next is, do you give us a reason why? 1 or 2, develop reasons. And if you look at the top of my little stick man here, he has the letter Y, and this is the top of the letter Y. So if you hold up your hands like this and say why, well, if this is Y1, then this was Y2, or if this is Y1, this can be Y2. And I use blue and green for the middle. But before I teach you how to develop 2 reasons, I'm going to show you in today's video how to make sure you show your students how to develop 1 and how to do it well. Now, another part of getting a 2, it says, what examples are you going to use? What experiences can you take from? Because we had seen in the adult rubric, it says you seem to be writing from your own experiences, your own point of view, and that's perfectly fine. So if you give a reason and you give an example, some of you teach your kids that they can use an anecdote, and that's perfectly fine as long as that anecdote is explaining a reason that you're giving and the example that you're using to give it. So that's how to get to two land. Let me slide down in the video. Got to use my mouse there. All right. May the threes be with you in the third 6 weeks, possibly. And we had said, in order to get a 3, the third bullet said, develop your ideas in detail. And I use explain, explain. And we had said to use the 6 W's plus 1. The 6 W's are who, what, when, where, why, which, and the plus 1 is how. You can use any of those W's and that H to help you explain a reason and turn a 2 that has good organization into a 3 that has development. The GPS, by the way, it's a little acronym that I use, not Global Positioning System. It stands for Get Pretty Specific. Using the basic W's to help a student understand what he can use to get specific. Now, real quick back here, some of you are going to ask me, well, what example can I use? Well, there's a list of them right here. You can use a personal example, something that really happened to you or someone you know, a hypothetical one. It didn't happen, but it could. That's what I'm going to show you today. A current event example about the topic, or a historical one. And one thing that might help your kids remember those 4 types of examples that I use is, if you notice, when you're doing expository, there's supposed to be one idea about the topic. And so sometimes pirates have one eye, and I want you to think of pirates then when I come up with an acronym. Pirates have cool hooks. Pirates have cool hats. Pirates have cool hair. So it's just a little way to help your kids remember, I'm a pirate because I can only have one idea about the topic, but I can use a personal, hypothetical, a current event, or historical. It's more the secondary grades that use current event examples to explain what you mean, or historical examples. And that can be about whatever topic that you choose. And then you come down here and say, okay, I don't want to just develop, because we learned from the scoring guide and the student rubric that it says, choose your words carefully. And that's where you don't just explain, you explode. And we said words, when you separate the W of words, you get 2 V's, and that's voice and vocabulary that you can see right there. And a lot of teachers have different ways to teach voice, but I use an acronym TOES. There's a saying that says, don't judge a person until you've walked a mile in his shoes. And inside his shoes are his toes. And here at the bottom, I keep wanting to use my check mark instead of going back to the mouse. Here at the bottom of that folder right there, it has toes, which is your voice, the spice of the essay. And you can have the most boring essay in the world and still get a 2 or a 3, but without voice, without some of these things that TOES stands for in both English and in Spanish, if you're having kids that are transitioning, you're going to have a really hard time getting a 3-4 paper or a 4-4 paper, because It says that you have well-chosen ideas, that your essay is thoughtful and engaging. So that's where the exploding part comes in, the toes. So I'll go through those really quickly. The T is make sure that whatever you write about that's interesting, unique, engaging is about the topic. You can share truisms, quotes, sayings, words of wisdom. Make sure there's good transitions between the ideas. If you're going to have more than one reason, then you need more than one transition. You need a good necklace that goes from your introduction, your head, to your body. You need a great pair of socks that goes from your pants to your shoes. So that's why it says the word transition there. Other ways to get voice. What is your opinion about what you're writing about? What are your emotions that you can tell or show? What are your five senses? I want to be able to see, hear, taste, touch, and feel what you mean by your example. What are some things that you might say, or if it's a historical example or a personal anecdote, what is something that was said by someone in your brief anecdote that you're sharing to explain your reason? And last, the other S is the salsa. Don't forget high vocabulary and figurative language that's appropriate and fits in to the context of the essay. So that's basically my structure of most of it, but we had said the last bullet was have correct spelling, capitalization, punctuation, grammar, and sentences. Well, the most important thing to think about then, that word sentences is plural. And so I would love it if you can teach your kids to have an ending, not just to restate and repeat the prompt and their central idea, because that's formulaic and repetition always makes the grade go down. But can you teach them to rephrase? Can I say what I've told you in a different way? Think of the ending like dessert, not a desert where there's nothing there, but a dessert. Because if your introduction is the appetizer, your meat is going to be reason one, your vegetable is going to be reason two if you're going to have one, and your conclusion is going to be like the dessert. You want to think about this. The reader is the eater of your words. So we want to make sure that our conclusion, our ending, is appetizing. So the strongest ending is a conclusion. 3 syllables. Reflection. How is my life different or better because of what I'm writing about, my reason, my idea? And we had said that the last thing was to take your paper to the emergency room of editing and revising. So there's the E of emergency room, and there's the R of emergency room. When you're doing the editing, you're doing cups, capitalization, usage, punctuation, spelling, and sentences that are not run-ons or fragments. If you're doing revising, you're fixing the content. Editing is fixing the grammar. So you've got to tell your kids, don't forget to do arm, add, remove, replace, or move things. And if they can keep this folder near them while they're working on their essay, all of these things were mentioned on the student rubric, and we showed you where they're at. If you look at the adult scoring guide, all those things were mentioned in there. So keep that in mind as I show you an essay that I wrote using my train as a guide. I have a friend of mine, actually several teachers, that used my train religiously from like August until December in 4th and 7th grade. And basically it's the structure that holds the essay together because of all the things that we talked about. So I'm going to show you first how you can organize. And when I was teaching in the classroom, excuse me, there were these thinking maps, if you're familiar with those, and they had one called a flow map and a different one that was called a tree map. And I thought, you know what? I have to flow with organization, and I have to develop the tree with development. And so I basically made a combination flow map and tree map using my train. And that's what I want to share with you now, so that you guys can see what does an example of an essay look like in rough draft form using a train. And so you can see the first thing I want you to think about is the organization. All right. Your kids have to remember what's the purpose and what's the prompt. M&M has a big brother named PNP, purpose and prompt. They have to know that the purpose is expository. And it says on the prompts, I put several because sometimes when kids have limited experiences, you have to teach them how to use their limited experiences to respond to several different prompts. And so the one that I'm going to share with you could fit for, what's your favorite outdoor activity? Write an essay about one sport that you enjoy. Write about one game that you like playing. In the secondary, write an essay about the importance of whether or not learning can be fun. Write about the importance of learning being fun, or learning being enjoyable. And my old trains, the kids had to go in here next and circle one of these. Is this a reading passage that I'm using uh, annotations for? Am I talking about main idea, personal narrative, or am I doing expository? So I went ahead and showed it to you. We're going to be doing expository with a central idea for 4th grade, a controlling idea for 7th, or a thesis statement for 9th grade. And so the yellow, the blue, the green, and the red are just used because of this reason right here. I had shown you in several videos, and especially on the one, how to get 3s and 4s, I suggest that any of you that haven't purchased that one, that you watch that to kind of get a good foundation of what we're talking about today. The monkeys that you can buy for $1 at the Dollar Tree are yellow, blue, green, and red. And they come in little barrels of monkeys, but at Walmart, they sell them 12 for about $6 or $7, but there's only one color. What I like about Dollar Tree is they sell them 12 for $1, and you get 3 yellows, 3 blues, 3 greens, and 3 reds. So what I have here is just 2 or 3 barrels of monkeys, so you can see the development. So however many sentences of each color that you have, you would add that many monkeys. Yellow for the introduction, blue for the reason and the examples, green for the way that we explain and explode it, just like on the folder, and red for the ending. And one of you suggested in one of the videos that we could use orange monkeys from Walmart, because they sell orange and purple at Walmart. You could use orange to transition between the introduction and the body, or between reason 1 and reason 2, and of course between the body and the conclusion. So that's why I used those colors. So thinking about organization first, it's real important your kids remember, oh, what's my wow, what's my idea? And I crossed off one of his eyes because we can only have one idea, and this wow stands for what we talked about in the video. Underline, write, and circle the key words. And if we talk about getting 3s and 4s, I need a wow beginning. I need a whistle. I need a hook. It's all written right there. What's my whistle? What's my hook? My hat. Another part of we're going to get the 2, we said we need a reason why. What's the main idea? And the idea that I'm going to share with you is Frisbee golf as an outdoor activity that can be enjoyable, something that you can play outside, a game that you can play, and it would respond to all the prompts that are above there. Why? Because it's a friendly competition. I'm going to give an example inside the development. And I thought I might share with you a second reason, but I said no. Instead of using a reason exercise that you get exercise playing this game, I decided to use the green train to only explain and explode using the 6Ws+1 and to engage you with higher vocabulary and voice. So you're going to see all that in the body, 12 different sentences. So that means you would have 12 blue and green monkeys because of the development and the different voice. And you can see here, I went ahead and marked many of them for you using the W's that I used and some of the voice connections. You'll see some green words that we'll talk about. But I just want to make sure we make it through our organization. How do you plan on ending? Don't forget the ending. Don't forget the editing, revising. Take your paper to the editing and revising emergency room. So ending or conclusion, this is the body, and this is the introduction. So they call that a flow map, but I converted it into a little tree map. So let me zoom in just a little bit bigger for you so you can see what hook can you use to start an essay about Frisbee golf. Now, because it's an outdoor activity, the state doesn't care what hook you use as long as it ties to your topic, excuse me, or the idea that you're going to use to respond to the topic with. Does it all connect? Does it all relate? So let's take a look at our introduction. This is an example of, I put several sentences in there just so you could see. You could have dialogue. Woohoo! I made it in the basket. I screamed so loud that everyone in the entire playground could hear me. My Frisbee toss was perfect, and I had just beaten my best friend in the finals. Autographs later, people. So you could have some of that, most of it, or all of it. If your kids are going to have that much of a hook to start, and that's perfectly fine, just teach them to write a little bit smaller to make sure they save room for a good central or controlling idea or a thesis statement. The central idea, write about the best sport, the best outdoor activity. Controlling idea, they said in 2019, write about the best way to learn. Well, we could use 7th grade. Write about the best activity to play outdoors, the best sport. Write about the best game that you enjoy. And so the central idea statement, as we can see here, is, and I'll go ahead and follow along with my mouse. Frisbee golf is the most amazing way to spend my time outside. It's a game, it's an outdoor activity, it's a sport, and it responds to all of the 4th grade and the 7th grade prompt when it's going to be worded like that. But let's say that they say, what about the importance of having fun when you're learning? What about whether learning can be fun? The importance of that. So something like that they would see in 7th grade for a controlling idea and in 9th grade for thesis. Here's how it might sound. After a semester of PE at my school, I've discovered that learning a new sport is possible for anyone as long as you are having a great time while you're doing it. So it is possible, just having a great time learning. So I did respond to the prompt. Now, the body is where most students blow it. They might have lots of reasons. They might have lots of examples, but I've said many times we're not doing ex-reasonatory, we're not doing exampletory, we're doing expository. So once you give me a reason that it's got friendly competition and the example of whatever you mean, what do you mean by friendly competition? Give me an example that you can explain. Well, we want to make sure we turn that to a 3 and a 4 by explaining and exploding. So I use the 2 middle parts as one reason when I'm first teaching my kids, and I only allow a few kids to have 2 separate reasons, a blue reason and a green reason, but today we'll be using one reason. All right. So here we go. This might be kind of extraordinary for some schools, but our coach has a competitive activity we often do called Frisbee golf. Sentence one. So if you have one monkey, do I get any extra credit? Yes, I would probably say, because extraordinary is a great vocabulary word and opinion, you could say, oh, I'm going to give you an extra monkey that's blue or green because you got my attention with that higher vocabulary. Even competitive and activity could be used, but because activity is in the prompt, we won't call it that. So it's either our thesis statement, it's our topic sentence, I'm sorry, uh, for the body, taking that from the competition idea and putting it into a sentence. He sets up about 10 gigantic trash cans. Who? My coach. Let's find out how he does this game. He sets up 10 gigantic trash cans where? All around the playground area that are about 20 to 30 yards apart. Okay, so we're right here. And so we know two different details. So a second sentence, gigantic, I would get an extra credit. So another monkey because of higher vocabulary. The object of the game is to get with a partner, what, and who, a partner, take turns tossing your frisbee towards the target. What are you doing? Tossing the frisbee. Where? Towards the target. 3 sentences so far, but extra credit because of different words like object. Sentence 4. Each basket has a number written on it so you will know where to throw next. So they're explaining, they're letting you use the senses. Oh, and now I can see. Oh, the baskets have numbers on them, so you do them in order, of course, just like you would in real golf. That's the where. Every time you let go of the frisbee, when? Every time you let go. The what that you do? You have to make a tally mark on a scorecard to keep track. That's what you do and where you put it on a scorecard. For instance, so here's an example of what you mean. If it takes you 4 throws to get the frisbee to land in the trash can, you would make 4 tally marks, then mark a 4 on that basket number on the card. So several what you do's there. And as you can see, if you think about them as I'm reading them, these are all just based on the W's. And I'm talking to the reader saying that you could do this and you could do that, talking in present tense, second person, to dissuade the students from telling a story about what happened one time I was playing frisbee golf. No, you can do this when you play frisbee golf, or I can do this. You can talk in first person, that's fine, as long as you're explaining why the game is fun, why it's competitive, why you enjoy it. Just keeping in mind that our topic was all those things. Sentence 8, monkey 8, if you're not giving any extra credit for vocabulary and voice, that is your total score for that particular game. What? And the lowest score wins. The person with the lowest score wins. So that's sort of like a who. We, this would be sentence 9. I don't have a 9 there because I didn't have room. Sorry about that. We only get to play that game about once a month. When? So I always look forward to it with great anticipation. So that's telling you I look forward to it. That's the showing part, and great anticipation is the telling. That's a higher word. You're excited, so you look forward to it with great anticipation. So another monkey, and that's a heart connection. 10, a head connection, an opinion coming up next. Frisbee golf is the most amazing sport I've ever gotten to play during P since pre-K. Not true, because it's just my opinion, but that's my point of view and perspective, which we're allowed to share. 11, what? Only the 4th and 5th graders get to participate in this, so we felt pretty special. So one little sentence that was in past tense, and you can say only the 4th graders and 5th graders get to participate in this, so we feel pretty special. If you don't want to take that risk of your kids going into past tense, if you're in secondary, you can say only us 7th graders get to play this activity. Only the 9th graders, because if you're a freshman. transition, we're getting ready to finish the reason. So we need a transition to the ending. We need some socks. Warning, warning, like they did in the 70s from Lost in Space. If you ever play this game with friends, that's a dependent clause. Who? You? Do what? Play the game? With who? Friends? Just watch out for players who conveniently forget to count their strokes. Can you use humor? Yes. Conveniently is a vocabulary word. So 12 sentences, but with all of the extra voice and vocabulary and a few figurative expressions I threw in there, this 3 would turn into a 3-4 because it's not just developed, it has some voice in it. So, how do we end a paper in 4th grade or possibly 7, depending on how the prompt's worded? Ending, conclusion. This game became so thrilling for me that I've already purchased my own frisbees and trash cans with my allowance money. That's how my life has been impacted. I went and bought my own and made it up at my house. Sentence 2, that way I can practice at my house with family and friends. Yes, there are tons of other games and activities that I experienced this year or I experience each year in school. You can keep it in present tense, but none of them have even come close to comparing how frisbee golf gets my heart rate soaring. So none of them come close. Tons of other games, that's hyperbole, there's not that many games, and we don't weigh the games. Gets my heart rate soaring is showing me, not telling me. So even though I only have 3 sentences there, I might give 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 extra monkeys that are read like the conclusion for the student using higher vocabulary. How might you end this for secondary when you're saying, can learning be fun? What about the importance of having fun while you're learning? Well, here's how it might sound for a 7th grader if they get that prompt, or a 9th grader. In my wildest dreams, I never would have seen myself liking real golf, let alone frisbee golf. But when you put your whole heart into something, it can be the most enjoyable experience ever. So is it important to enjoy something that you're learning? Yes. And just so you know, I've never played frisbee golf in my entire life, but you wouldn't be able to tell because I was using what I shared with you, a hypothetical example. I've never touched a golf frisbee before. I've seen those little golf courses for frisbee in passing, but I've never been on the course. I only know real golf, but I knew enough of it to lie through my teeth and make the reader feel like he's able to experience the joy of learning frisbee golf, of that fun activity, of that outdoor activity with me. And they're not going to come to your kid's house and knock on the door and say, hey, is Bill McDonald there? He needs to come with us. He's under arrest for making up an experience that he didn't really have. They don't care. There's 5 F's we can use. Let me share those with you. Fact, which is real, personal. Fiction, hypothetical, it could happen. Fantasy, as long as it ties in the prompt correctly. Faith, something that you enjoy outside to do with your faith. And figurative language, you can sprinkle that in, like we said, like hot sauce. So there you have it, my friends. That's an example of how to use a graphic organizer. Those could be circles that you kind of put little sticks pointing out from, but I wrote it as a rough draft in complete sentence form. So instead of putting it on the train, your kids could use the 26 lines that you see in a STAR document, because on the test you're allowed to let your kids have line paper or your kids can actually use the boxed in blank 26 line paper that you can make yourself. They're in my binder. So may the force be with you. The next time that I share a video about expository with you, I'm going to break it down piece by piece with you and just focus on the introduction, then on the body, how to come up with a reason and come up with an example, how to explain it and explode it, and then another video that shows you how to end it and take time to edit, revise. That will be piece by piece for some of you that need that guidance. Some of you mentioned, I'm a beginner teacher, I need the step-by-step sequence. So you can either get the detailed expository lesson plans, because that's already 13, 14 weeks that are written for you that go great into detail, and also have lots of editing practice, because that's a big part of the test in all grade levels. You can also use the binder, and I adapted one of my pages on the binder to make this graphic organizer to fit several different prompts. And if your page 494 is different, I will send you this. I already have this as a separate file. For those of you that attended the purchase the How to Get 3s and 4s training, it's going to be attached to this video right now. For those of you that have buy it in the future, you'll also get it. So if it didn't come, if the PDF of that train did not come with the video, just email me at my email address right there, writing_doctor@yahoo.com, and I'll make sure we get it to you. God bless you guys. Hope to see you soon at our next webinar.